Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Discriminating Gamer. You know, I once competed in the Kleptomaniac World Championships. I took home the gold, silver, and the bronze. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at People Power, Insurgency in the Philippines, 1981 to 1986, from GMT Games. People Power, Insurgency in the Philippines, 1981 to 1986 from GMT Games, is a coin game. This, of course, is the counterinsurgency asymmetrical game in which players take on the roles of the government or various insurrectionary factions in attempt to meet their specific objectives. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds here, just give you a basic overview of the game and tell you how it plays. Now, this game recreates the historical conflict that took place between the government under Ferdinand Marcos and the various insurgent groups that were attempting reform or revolution in the Philippines during this time period. One player takes on the role of the government, one player takes on the role of the MPA. These are revolutionary forces looking to topple the government through force of arms. And then you had the reformers. These are non-violent reformers who are hoping to have kind of a peaceful transition of power to a less corrupt government led by Corazon Aquino. The game board is a map of the Philippines. You have the various provinces in the Philippines and some cities as well in the Philippines. The various provinces and cities kind of have a number next to it indicating their population. You're also going to have whether these areas kind of are in active support or opposition to the government. And just like in other coin games, you have a lot of the basic ideas here. You have a card draw system where you draw a card every round, and then that card is going to give you information on it. It is going to tell you essentially who is going to go next, who's going to have the opportunity to go. But of course, every round, players are going to make a decision about who gets to do what. Now, you have an eligibility track, and essentially you've got the three factions, the three tokens, and the first person whose turn it is on the card, they have the option. They can go ahead and they can do an operation plus a special ability, or they can just do an option, or they can play the event on the card. And whichever track they choose, the second player has to choose kind of the next option in that track. So you can actually choose to limit what the next person can do. Maybe just, again, play an operation or a limited operation. And in that way, you're kind of keeping it, you never know exactly who is going to go to choose to do what and what the next person is going to do. Now, one person is going to be left out. Now, of course, if they came up earlier, they did have the opportunity to pass. Otherwise, they're just going to stay eligible for the next round, which means the two that went will be ineligible to participate in the next round, and the one can go. But that's going to get mixed up as people pass. You don't quite know exactly who's going to be able to do what during the game. Now, as I say, you have the opportunities to do operations, limited operations, or special abilities. You each have player aids, which tell you what those operations and special abilities are. Now, the government have two shades of blue cubes representing either troops or police, and they're going to go ahead and move those around the board. They're going to train them. They're going to use them to expose guerrillas and take them out. They also have bases that they can put on the board. The rebels, now they have guerrilla factions which are face down. They can flip them up in order to take their actions, but they have to expose themselves in order to take the kinds of actions that are going to help them. Now, the reformers, they're also trying to put out protests everywhere. They're trying to protest the government, and they're stronger where the protests exist. The NPA, they actually want strikes. So you're trying to put out the markers and the tokens that will benefit your side depending on what your faction is. Now, I'm not really going to get into the weeds about all the actions you can take. There's some great learn to play videos out there, but I'm just going to give you some of the basic ideas here. But now, there are specific victory conditions for each side. Now, the government is trying to control spaces. Of course, if you have the most units there, you're going to control it. And you're looking at the population number of those areas you control, but you're also looking at a patronage track. This is how much the government is kind of getting people on their side in their pocket through bribes and whatnot. If your patronage number and what you control equals 18, then during a propaganda round, they will win. Now, for the reformers, if they have enough bases out there and enough opposition in places, in population areas, that it collectively adds up together to 12, then they will win during a propaganda round. Now, the MPA will win if their bases plus their resistance level to government rule is 13, then they will win during the propaganda round. Now, there are a number of propaganda rounds that are shuffled into the deck depending on a scenario, and you're going to go ahead and reveal these propaganda rounds. Now, the propaganda rounds will kind of allow you to reset. People will be able to do different things on the board, but critically, as I say, that is the time where you check for victory. Whichever side has completed their victory objectives at that portion of the propaganda round wins. People power, insurgents in the Philippines, 1981 to 1986. We'll get back to the review in just a moment. I want to take a minute to ask you to check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, books on history, military history. I even post some of my lectures for my classes on there. Please check that out. Please subscribe to that channel. And now, back to the review. Now that is just a bare overview of what is going on here. There is a lot more to this game. Like I said, I really didn't get into what the actions are. They're very specific, and it was just more time than I wanted to commit to this video. But I'm sure there's other videos out there that cover all of that very, very well. There's also some optional rules. You can play with personalities. You have personality cards, different people that actually influenced the insurgency here. You can bring those into play. You have acts of desperation, other cards that kind of help you play the game. There is also a way you can play this game with 2 or 1 players. There's a bot and a system here in order to play the game that way. There is a ton of game in this game. Now, I should point out, too, that I'm fairly new to the coin system. I played my first coin game, it was either late last year or earlier this year, the British way, which surprised me at how much I enjoyed it. I played some coin-adjacent games like A Guest of Robin Hood and Vijay Nagara. And then the last one I played was Cuba Libre, which I thought was phenomenal. I had so much fun with Cuba Libre. So I was really excited to get into more of the coin games, and People Power looked like it's a fairly accessible coin game for 3 players. So I was really excited to have the opportunity to play People Power. And this is a history. I'm not, like, as an academic, not super aware of everything that happened here. But I remember as a child when this was playing out and watching the news and not really understanding it. But I remember hearing about, Imelda Marcos and Ferdinand Marcos and Corazon Aquino. And kind of in my little kid brain, of course, the Marcoses were the evil and Corazon Aquino was the good person, which arguably, and then Aquino, of course, ultimately triumphs here. So it was an interesting history to kind of revisit through this game, and it was great too because Al he was in the Air Force in the Philippines when all this was going on. So that was pretty cool, and we got a kick out of that. And he was telling us a lot of the stories about when he was there at the time. So that was really fun to look at the history this way and learn a lot from this game, which I did. As a game, like the coin games I have played, it was filled with tough choices. There were a lot of really tough choices in this game about how and when to strike with your forces, where to move them, when to move them. What's the timing of me trying to screw up the other guys, and what's the timing for me to really pursue my own goals? And it does a good job in presenting those kinds of choices. So I really enjoyed that. For me, there's always a learning curve in trying to figure out exactly how to play your faction. There are tips. There are tip guides there for how to play with your faction. But it's always fun and interesting to learn these games. Sometimes it's a heavier experience than others. But we really enjoyed this one. This was another fun, engaging uh, game that really fun and interesting history, really good rules, really tight competition. We that first game we played some things, we got a few things wrong right off the bat, but we ended up kind of correcting for that. And ended up having a fantastic experience. I really enjoyed People Power. Another great coin game, definitely going into the collection. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this an 8 on the Cody scale. I'm a big fan of the coin games I played so far, and it is going to be a lot of fun finding some of these new coin games and exploring them as well. Looking forward to that. I've got a few more on my shelf that I haven't played yet that I'm looking forward to. Thank you once again for joining us today on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, I'd ask you to please give a thumb to this video on YouTube and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please check us out on Facebook and Twitter, and please leave a thumb for this video on Board Game Geek as well. If you like what we do here, please check out my other channel, that is Cody Carlson, PhD, where we talk about history, military history, books on history, those sorts of things. I even put up some of my lectures on that channel. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe to that channel. And if you do really enjoy the stuff we do here, I would humbly ask you to click on the Super Thanks button and leave a tip. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1988, I and my family were on vacation in Hawaii. I was just a kid. And we're on a tour bus, and as we were driving along, someone on the bus asked the tour guide, "Are there any snakes in Hawaii?" And the tour guide said, "No, there's no snakes in Hawaii." And then he stopped and corrected himself and says, "No, I misspoke. There are 2 snakes in Hawaii, Ferdinand and Imelda Marcos." Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I'll be dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love to fight.
Oh, there's a game, oh, what you play it for? It's for having fun and learning about the Cold War. Your mind like a mental pack of sharks. We'll be putting people in their place like Karl Marx, spreading influence across the globe in one of the best stories ever told. Twilight Struggle, play it on the double. Communist troubles in Twilight Struggle. Some Jews would rather stay home with their girlfriends and snuggle, but I'd rather go and play Twilight Struggle. Oh.